everyone, welcome back to part 2 of Reckless Secret of the Lava Treasure. I'm so excited to have you here tonight as we read the next part of the story. You know, there's a lot of fun things that we like to do, and one of my favorite things to do is read stories. I think it's a lot of fun to write stories, and it's a lot of fun to read stories. So, I'm excited to read this one to you. So, grab a blanket, grab a pillow, grab a snack, whatever you need to get comfortable for this story. So find those things, and then we'll get started right away with Reckless, The Secret of the Lava Treasure, Part 2. All right, here we go. Lucy leaped from the ladder, hooked to the rim of the volcano, and flew through the air toward the giant gear just below her. She landed in one of the notches in the bronze gear, rolling to the side as another harpoon whipped through the air and clanged just below. "Lucy, get out of there!" Mag squawked. The magpie flapped beside the gear, her gaze darting from girl to gear to crazed airship pilot somewhere up above them. Up ahead, a large clunk sounded. Another gear collided with this one, turning over and over and over. The notch with Lucy rolled closer to the large gear, and just as the huge metal piece came smashing down, Lucy slid to the side and rolled out. She landed on a turning beam and threw both arms out to steady herself. With quick steps, she hurried across the beam to a metal platform and pulled herself up. And then the net shot out of the airship above. It thwacked through the air and curled around Mags before wrenching her back up toward the ship. "Mags, I'll be fine, dear," Mags shouted as the net went right over the side of the airship. A groan echoed beside Lucy. She spun around to see a metal door with a porthole set into the top creak open. A leather-gloved hand shot out. "Quick, in here!" Another harpoon whirled through the air. Lucy screamed, grabbed the mysterious hand, and slipped inside. They pulled the metal door shut and spun a wheel on the inside just as the harpoon smashed into it. That was close. Lucy squinted in the dark. She could just barely see what looked like a person standing right in front of her, wearing leather gloves, a long leather apron that reached down to their knees, and a huge metal mask with a square window. In one hand, the figure held what looked like a blowtorch. "You got any light in here?" Lucy asked. "Oh, right. You're probably not used to the dark. Just a second." The figure sounded like a boy about her own age. He reached over and grabbed a huge red lever sticking from the wall and yanked downward. Instantly, small incandescent bulbs popped to life all across the ceiling above. A metal tunnel wound its way through the volcano, sloping down behind them. The boy lifted the metal mask up, and Lucy could see his face, covered with soot and grime with dark brown eyes and jet black hair poking over his forehead. He slid off one of the gloves and held out a hand, little bits of dirt packed under each fingernail. "I'm Henry, but a lot of people call me Hank, so Henry, Hank, whatever you like." Lucy shook his hand. "Lucy, look, do you know what's going on around here? The volcano?" "Yes, the volcano, and that airship out there that took my friend." Lucy waved a hand at the window in the metal door. Henry's chin sank to his chest. "It's Matilde's. He's turned the volcano back on." "What do you mean he's turned the volcano back on?" Henry pointed at the window. "You saw all that machinery out there?" Lucy nodded. "Well, this volcano is really a giant machine. The lava was just a fake out. It wasn't even real. Watch." Henry reached to the wall and pulled another lever. This one was a bit smaller and had an orange tip. As soon as he had pulled the lever, there was a whirring sound outside, and then a bright orange and yellow floodlight flooded through the window. Lucy pressed up against the glass. What looked like lava flowed all around over their heads. But then Lucy glanced down and saw huge projector lenses shooting light up to the top of the volcano, making it look like it was filled with lava. "The whole volcano's fake?" Henry nodded. "Exactly. A machine, and Matilde's is making sure it's turned back on." "Who's Matilde's? Is he the jerk who took my friend?" Lucy balled up a fist at her side. "Because if he is, I have something I'd like to special deliver." She punched her palm with her fist. "Yeah, that's Matilde's, and I work for him." Lucy's eyes widened. "You what? Why do you work from him? Work for him? He's a bird napper." Henry held up his hands. It's not my choice, believe me." He pointed to his foot. For the first time, Lucy saw a metal chain hooked onto a clasp around Henry's ankle. The chain hooked to another clasp around a thin metal bar that ran all along the middle of the tunnel. "I'm trapped in here, but maybe you can help me escape. She closed her eyes. Okay, how? Why don't you use that blowtorch on the chain? It doesn't work. Matilde's made this chain out of some special metal I've never even heard of. Its melting temperature is higher than anything else I could heat this up with. Is there a key of some kind? Lucy crouched down to look at the chain. There was a tiny keyhole on one side. Maybe I can pick it open. Tried a bunch of times. It's stuck, but there is a key. Great, let's get it, get you free, shut down this crazy volcano and rescue my friend. Henry held up a grimy palm. Not so fast. Matilde's has the key, on his airship, hidden somewhere. So I'll have to get up there and get it then. Henry looked at her sideways. You sure are ready, aren't you? I have to be. There's a princess down on the island who's breathed in that sleeping smoke out there and fell fast asleep. The smoke makes people fall asleep? Henry ran his tongue along the inside of his cheek. That would make sense, I suppose. It could, because of the covalent property of the molecules at the atomic level. I don't understand any of that, Lucy said. How do we shut down the volcano? Henry waved a hand. Follow me. I have an idea about that. And I have an idea about how to get you up to the airship to rescue your friend. Come on. Henry darted down the tunnel, the metal chain scraping along the bar on the floor. Lucy followed close behind, glancing over her shoulder every few moments, trying to keep track of where they were going. The tunnel wound downward, and after switching back and forth, taking a turn down one tunnel and back, she had completely lost track of where they were heading. They finally made it down to a large open room with the metal bar on the floor running around a large machine. What is that? Lucy asked, staring at the tubes and copper-colored pipes and gauges and gears and cogs, whirring in so many directions it made her head spin. That is the heart of the volcano. Lucy took a careful step forward, eyeing the bits of steam puffing out the top and sides at random moments. She leaned into a gauge with numbers ranging from 1 to 1,000 and a tiny needle pointing somewhere around the 400 mark. What's this mean? Henry pulled on the chain and stretched to see the gauge. My best guess is that one tells the amount of smoke pouring out. So what happens when it reaches 1,000? He swallowed, lifted the mask off his head and sighed. If that needle reaches 1,000, then there will be enough smoke everywhere to cover the 7 seas. Everyone will fall asleep faster than you can count 5 sheep. That is not good. So how do we shut it down? Henry pointed at a red button near the top of the machine. That. One push and the whole machine should turn off, I think. Okay then, first things first. Lucy rolled up her dark sleeves and rolled her neck from side to side. Let's turn this thing off. She grabbed onto a low-hanging pipe and swung her legs up to a large gear. Then another leap to another pipe. Be careful, watch out for that steam, Henry shouted up. Why? Lucy asked, dangling over a whirring gauge. Because the steam heats up to 400 degrees, that's why. Lucy yanked her knees up to her chest. Okay, yikes. Now you tell me. She wrapped her arms around the pipe and pulled herself up. A blast of steam shot out behind her back and she fell forward, waiting until the hot air had finished hissing out. Then with 2 careful movements, she brought her knees up to the pipe, then stood. Balancing on the edge of the pipe, Lucy glanced up. Another burst of steam shot out just above her head. There's so many, Lucy shouted. Yeah, I don't even understand what they all do, to be honest. Just be careful, the shut-off button is right above that pipe. Lucy swallowed, nodded, and reached up. Her fingers grazed the bottom edge of the button and she stood up on her toes to reach a little higher and push it in. She slammed her fist on the shut-off button just as a huge burst of steam shot out and knocked her clean off the edge of the pipe. She fell through the air screaming until Henry caught her in his arms down below. Good thing I've been working out, huh? He said, smirking. Put me down, Lucy said, furrowing her brow. She hopped to her feet. Did that do it? I think so. An alarm buzzed over their heads, so loud they both had to cover their ears from the noise. Red lights flashed all over the heart of the volcano. What's happening? Lucy mouthed, pain ripping through her head. Henry shrugged and glanced at the gauges. His eyes went wide and he turned back to Lucy, pointing at the door frantically. They darted out, slammed the door behind them, dampening the alarm noise just enough so they could actually hear each other. What? Lucy asked, watching sweat trickle down Henry's face. Henry shook his head. It's not good. That wasn't a shutdown button. Then what was it? It was a self-destruct button. The whole volcano is going to explode. Lucy grabbed his shoulders. How long do we have? We have to get you out of here. I think 20 minutes tops. 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes. Henry stared off at the ceiling. Lucy, listen to me. We are going to make it. We have to trust in God. He knows what he's doing. He knows everything that's happening to us right now, and he's right here with us. Sure, Henry muttered. Listen, you said you had an idea to get me up to the airship. How? Henry shook his head. He blinked twice and bit his lip. Okay, but it's dangerous, but it should work. You ever been surfing before? No, I haven't. Then you're about to go for the first time. Come on. Henry took off down the tunnel, the danger alarm still clanging behind them. They wound through a few more passages until they came to a workshop of some kind. Wooden benches sat along every wall, covered in tools and gears and sprockets and springs. Henry shuffled through the back bench until he grabbed a large round disc. What's that? Lucy asked. Your ticket out of here into the airship. Henry opened a hatch on the backside of the workshop and glanced inside. Perfect. It's about to happen again. What's about to happen? Lucy hurried to his side and peered inside the hatch. Far above, she could see blue sky, and below, she could see what looked like bubbling water. What is this? It's a geyser. On the count of 3, you have to jump into the hatch with this disc. The geyser is going to shoot you up into the sky, and then you'll be free sailing until you land on the airship. Got it? What? No, I don't. Henry leaned over. It's about to erupt again. It does every 15 minutes, so it's now, oh, well, never. Lucy threw her arms around Henry. I'm coming back, Hank. Please do. He grabbed a backpack off a nearby table. Quick, put this on, parachute, just in case you miss. Lucy scrambled up onto the workbench and grabbed the plastic disc in both hands. It was half her height, and she just hoped it would support her weight. A loud rumbling sound echoed out of the chute below. Now go, go! Henry shouted, strapping the backpack over her shoulders. I'll come back for you, I promise. Lucy threw the disc into the chute and jumped out on top of it. She screamed, falling through the hot air for only a moment before the geyser shot up below her. Water slammed into the bottom of the disc, and Lucy crouched into a ball. The blue sky rushed to meet her face, and within a matter of seconds, she had shot out of the volcano. The water kept spraying higher and higher, and she leaped up to her feet, sticking both hands out to the side and riding the geyser stream. The airship was right in front of her, and she passed a porthole near the bottom of the hull, reaching out both hands as she sailed past the wooden railing. With a quick swing, she flew over the side and sprawled out on the deck of the flying pirate ship, staring at the bottom of the white balloon floating above her. Whoa, I made it. Lucy rolled over and watched the deck. No one moved around anywhere. One large mast stood ahead of her, and on the far side she could see a ship's wheel lashed in place with ropes. An ornately carved door sat on the other end of the airship, closed tight, and far above, hanging from the mast, was a bird cage with Mags resting fitfully inside. Mags, Lucy whispered. Mags, wake up! But the bird refused to move. A dirty mop sat beside her in a bucket of water. She tossed the mop to the side and heaved the water upwards. It splashed against the cage. Black feathers fluttered and one beady eye opened, glaring at her. I said I was getting some shut-eye. Is that Lucy? You made it up here. Mag stood up on her talons and clutched the bars of the cage with her feathers. You have got to get me out of here. That crazy lunatic is bound to come back up to the deck any moment and catch you. What crazy lunatic? The crazy one. Lucy shook her head. She didn't have time for this. The key. Was there a key around his neck? Mag scratched her head. I recall something shiny and shimmering around his wrist. Probably the one you're looking for. But how is a key going to help, my dear? It'll help, trust me. I'll be right back. Lucy crept up to the door and pulled on the handle. It swung down and the door creaked open a pinch. She slipped inside, walking into a gloomy stateroom. A fancy mahogany desk sat in one corner of the room, and on the other side was a couch. And on the couch was a man wearing what looked like a tunic from ancient Greece. A golden laurel leaf crown wound around his forehead. The man's eyes were closed, and he snored softly, a tiny bubble shrinking and growing under his nose. He didn't look very old, probably just a few years older than her and Henry, actually. Curly dark hair poked over his forehead and down the side of his temple. And there, wrapped around his wrist, was a silver key, dangling from a red ribbon. The key, Lucy whispered. With careful tiptoes, she made her way to the couch and crouched down, barely daring to breathe. Her fingers grabbed the edges of the ribbon and slowly pulled. The man snorted and yanked his hand up to his head, scratching above his eyebrow. Lucy leaned back, gritting her teeth. A soft snore drifted out again, and Lucy reached up to finish untying the ribbon. Within a moment, she had it off, slipping the key into her palm. She stood and whipped around to the door. And where exactly do you think you're headed? Lucy swallowed and spun around, smiling. The man sat up on the couch, a dark look in his eyes. Oh, you know, Lucy said. I was just strolling by and decided to see if you were home, and I guess you are. So I'll just be heading out now. Bye! She grabbed the door handle and pushed. The man yanked a golden dagger from beneath the couch cushion and threw it. The blade stuck into the wood on the door right by Lucy's fingers. You're going nowhere, especially with that key. Give it to me. He stood up and held out his hand. Now! I kind of need this, though. I'll give it back to you as soon as I'm done. She pushed into the door with her shoulder and it flew open. Bring back that key, the man shouted, rushing at the door. Lucy slammed the door shut behind her, stomping on the end of the mop with her foot. The wet end flipped into the air and she grabbed it and slid it through the door handles behind her. The man smacked into the barricaded door, shouting, Lucy, you got and woke him up, didn't you? Mags yelled down at her. Yes, I guess. Here. She tossed the key at the magpie, who caught it in her beak. The bird stuffed the key into the cage lock and twisted. The cage door flew aside and Mags flapped out with the key and talon. Quick, what's the plan, kiddo? Mags dropped the key in Lucy's hand. I've got to rescue a friend from down below, Lucy said. He's trapped in the volcano and it's about to explode. Oh my, dancing on the edge of danger again. Oh, I suppose it never fails, does it? Nope. And then the doors behind them shattered. Lucy screamed, ducked and leaped down to the lower deck. The man rushed out with a large golden sword in hand. He stood at the edge of the railing above her. How dare you! I am Matildes, the rightful ruler of the seven seas, and you dare to steal from me? Mags leaned over to Lucy's ear. Someone's got a bit of a complex, apparently. Silence, bird! I should have had you skewered the moment I brought you on board. Now that is just plain old not nice, Mags retorted, wingtips on her hips. Well, we have the key, and we're going to rescue Hank, and you can't stop us, Lucy shouted. Matilde started laughing. Hank? You mean little Henry? Lucy nodded. Yes, Henry. Another laugh escaped from the man on the deck above, and he swung the sword from side to side. Then you are a greater fool than anyone else. Did you press the red button for him? Lucy nodded again. I did, and the whole volcano is going to explode. A creepy smile crossed over Matilde's lips. Indeed it will. He snapped his fingers, and then a hatch opened on the other side of the mast. The wood door slapped to the deck, and a figure emerged. Matilde swept his hand wide. Meet my little brother, Henry. Lucy's eyes went wide and her vision spun. Wait, how are you free? Henry held up one end of the chain. I was always free, and you helped me so nicely too. Thank you for doing what I could and push the red button. I've always had a fear of climbing up the heart of the volcano, and now you've done it for both of us. Henry knelt down and nodded his head at Matilde's. And now my brother will rule the seven seas, because every island, every archipelago will fall asleep as soon as a volcano erupts with more smoke than was ever possible before. Oh dear, Mag squawked. And now, Matildes pointed his golden sword at both of them. It's time we throw you right where you belong, off the plank and into the volcano. And that's where we're going to leave the story until tomorrow night. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I hope you have fun, and we'll see you next time. Bye.